Hey, my name is Igor, I'm a full-time software engineer, and in my spare time I'm building a startup from scratch. The idea is a high-performance URL shortener with a minimalistic, clean and modern UI. My goal is to document the entire process, from drawing boxes on the whiteboard to writing actual code, dealing with trade-offs, bugs, and all those moments where things don't go as planned. So if you're into engineering, you're in the right place. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and hope you enjoy it. Hey, welcome back. So this week my main goal would be to finish security layer for my frontend application, because previously I just dumped my refresh token and access token as a response body, and I didn't even know what Gemini did to persist them in the browser, but then I checked that and it set it to local storage, which is super not secure. You should not do that, and we will definitely fix that. And the second big part is to do a thorough review of the front-end code and refactor it so it would be more maintainable, because last week I've mentioned that it was terrifying even checking on the high level what Gemini implemented, but in some places it was acceptable, in some places it was super weird and super strange, and I wouldn't leave it in my code base like that. So let's start with the security and let's explore ways how we can handle our tokens in the Next.js application. Alright, so if we get back to our authorization flow, we're interested in this particular stage when the server issues JWT token pair and return it to the browser. And here I said that JWT should be stored in memory and cookies. And that is basically the main idea how we can secure our tokens. So let's make one step back and explore ways how the token can be passed to browser in the first place. So let's say this is the browser and our server. Let's imagine that we're in situation where server is already generated tokens and we need to transfer that to the browser. The one way would be to do that through query parameters. Let's say we're redirecting to the browser with query parameter token. Browser will get the token query parameter and save that either in memory or local storage or in any place that you prefer. And the main problem in here would be that you should not forget that between your server and browser, there might be a lot of proxies, and there is also your internet service provider. So we need to put another character in our diagram. And now the request from server first goes through the chain of the proxies, and only then it gets to our browser. And you can wonder why this is a problem when we transfer token from server to browser. The thing is that all the proxies can log, or definitely log, all the requests that you're doing. They are logging the domain name, they can log the query parameters. So essentially our token can be logged in somewhere else system, and potentially they can get the token and reuse it in our system. Probably it's unlikely that someone will do that, but this is a great security risk, and you should not transfer any sensitive information through the query parameters. But fair enough, you can point me and one of my previous videos where I explained that for getting the actual tokens, I need to send the authorization code to the browser, and I do that exactly through query parameters. And you could say that it's also not secured and it can be intercepted, it can be used against us. And this is the part of the flow that I'm talking about. So I'm sending authorization code to the browser as a GET request, and browser immediately send a request to exchange the code with our tokens. And why exposing code is kind of okay, and exposing tokens through the query parameters is not great. So the main difference between code and JWT tokens is that authorization code by itself doesn't provide any access to our application. Yes, you can send a request to get the actual access tokens, but that is super unlikely that someone would intercept that, especially taking into account that the authorization code is super short-lived. It expires in 30 seconds, and right after the exchange process is done, the token is erased from the system. So basically, you can use it only one time. All right, let's imagine the second case where we have our server, have our browser. So let's say the application has the same authorization flow with code exchange. So the browser would send the code, the server would respond with tokens, and at this point, browser can store the tokens either in local or session storage. It can be even in cookies. So at this point, this approach slightly better than the first one, because in the first case, the only ways to store the tokens would be the exact same, and first we are exposing the tokens to our internet provider, and then we store that in browser storage with the JavaScript. And the problem with setting something with JavaScript is that it can be also accessible with another JavaScript. So meaning someone could inject the JavaScript code in our server, and that could be exposed to the user, and user will have their credentials in one of those storages, and that can be easily retrieved by that malicious JavaScript code, and all the JWT tokens can be stolen super easy. So let's check how it works right in the browser. So let's say I'm gonna go to application tab, and there is some cookie value, and there is something in local storage. Yeah, session storage is empty, but we can try to fetch from local storage and from cookies. So let's say I want to fetch the theme. I'm gonna type local storage, get item. And there you have it. You can easily fetch the theme from the local storage just like that. And now let's try with cookies. So I'm having only one here. It's something with authorization. So let's try to get that one. Yep, here we go. We fetch the security value from our cookies, and we can imagine that is our JWT tokens, and no matter where they're stored, they can be fetched directly from the console log or malicious JavaScript code that might be injected in your website. So I was researching and looking for the way how to achieve that in the right way, and to be honest, I didn't know that before, but apparently the only proper way to store tokens securely is first of all returning access token as a response body and saving that in the memory of our application. So basically you are assigned it to any variable, and that's it. And speaking of refresh token, we set that as a cookie value, but there is a catch. We need to set that from the server, and we explicitly specify that the cookie has HTTP only type. And let me explain what does it mean. So again, our server browser code is sent to the server, and the backend generates the tokens. And here the access token is returned in the body, and then server sets refresh token in HTTP only cookie. So let's say this is our access token. It is in memory, and here is our refresh token. It is also stored in browser storage, but as HTTP only cookie. So in what way it's different from this approach? The main and the most important that sets apart this implementation from this one is that HTTP only cookies are not accessible from JavaScript at all. So neither your JavaScript code or some malicious codes, they're not able to retrieve these values from cookie storage. Essentially, they're like invisible for JavaScript. It is accessible only when you make HTTP requests, and the only thing that you need to do in your JavaScript is to say something like use credentials or something like that, and the browser will attach HTTP only cookie in that request, and it would be securely transferred to the server. And also you might think, wait, it's a bit weird to store access token in memory. What would happen if we refresh the page and the token is basically gone? And do we need to log in on every page refresh? Yeah, that would be super weird, but that's exactly where the refresh token comes in. The refresh token is persisted in your browser, and every time when you open the page, our Next.js application would check whether the token is in memory. If it's not there, we simply make a request to get a new token with our refresh token, set it again in memory, and that's it. The user can use the application normally, and all of that is done transparently. So no interactions from user side is needed at all. So I think I followed all the best practices for authorization and authentication flow. And here is how my token controller changed. Here is how it was previously, and here is how it looks like now. So last time I said that I have a custom annotation that makes sure that only refresh token can be used here. I removed that one, but the validation logic didn't go anywhere. It just migrated in another place. And now instead of accessing JWT token principal and generating both access and refresh token, I expect to receive cookie value of refresh token and then generate and return access token only. So to preserve JWT token scope validation, I needed to create another security configuration, and here the most important part is refresh token authentication provider, and that one decodes the token, checks whether the scope is refresh token one. If not, it throws exception, and also if the token is not valid or expired, it also returns 401. For this one, I would need to throw another error, and I need to have a proper exception mapping to error status codes, but that's a problem for another day. Alright, now let's talk about changes, what I did on the front. And yeah, by the way, I've added dark mode. I thought that I need to take care of eyes of my boys. So yeah, now we have it. So the cookie store is currently empty. If I go with Google sign in, I'm gonna choose my account, and we have our refresh token. And if I expand this one, we can see that it's HTTP only. So again, this means that no JavaScript code can access this cookie, and it's secure from any scripting vulnerabilities. Hey, it's Future Igor. So while I was editing this footage, I noticed that I completely forgot to show you the proof that those cookies are actually invisible for JavaScript. So let's jump right to it. Okay, so I logged in to the dashboard. Here is the cookie that we have. And if I go to console, I type document and cookie, it shows nothing. So basically that proves that those are completely invisible for JavaScript. That's it. And now back to the main video. And also there is no access token stored anywhere in the storage. I stored that in memory. So basically if I refresh the page, we would see refresh request comes first. It attaches cookie value in the request. Our Spring Boot controller handles that and issues the access token, which will be stored in the variable on the Next.js side. And then comes the link API call. This one contains the exact access code from the refresh request. And now I'm gonna simulate the access token expiration. So currently it has expiration of 1 hour. So I'm gonna override that in properties temporarily. So we're gonna have that for 15 seconds and then I restart the application. Alright, so we can go back to the front end page and I refresh again to get the new token. So to make sure it has the expiration that we need, I'm gonna debug it here. It is issued at 1956 and 57 seconds, and it expires at 1957 and 12 seconds. So basically 15 seconds. And now we want to make sure that request for short links returns 401. So I'm gonna switch to another page and I want to get the same request again. So yep, we have an error and it says unauthorized, and right after that goes refresh token request, and we have our brand new token issued once again. And what's good about that, it's absolutely transparent for the users, so they won't even notice that something is expired. Everything is happening in the background. Alright, so here is what we have code-wise. Initially, Gemini generated code where everything stored in variables, but I heard that adding state management is a good idea. For this one, I choose ZooStand library, and it essentially manages my tokens and also data from the links that API returns. Overall, here code is super messy. There is a lot of console logs and there are also a lot of comments. So I will refactor everything later on, but for now I just want to explain the main idea behind this flow. So the main method for communicating with the backend API is fetch with auth, and the first thing that it checks whether the token is present in the store. So if it's not in the store and if it's not currently refreshing, we refresh the token, and if we didn't get token, we redirect user to login page. But if everything is okay, we retry the same API call. And every time when I implement something that is used almost everywhere, I ask myself if there is a library that does a better job that I did. Of course, I could stay lightweight and do not add any dependencies and leave it the way it is right now, or I could find a solution that would make it more resilient and support other cases as well. And one of those libraries is Axios auth refresh, which does exactly the same job that I did in my component. So basically it operates with interceptors and it checks whether the token is expired. It does all the necessary calls, and you can even map the status code that you're interested in to run the interceptor, and it supports other cases. So I think it's kind of useful, and I will try to replace my logic with this one. One of the use cases that I want to improve is concurrent token refresh. So I think this should help me with that. Oh, and yeah, and I think that I didn't show how I set cookies on the backend. So this is the code exchange endpoint, and previously all this logic didn't exist. And here below I built the cookie for refresh token for production environments, and when you have HTTPS you need to set this to secure, and then I just set it into the headers and return the response body. So overall this pattern is kind of cool, but at this point I have a little concern about how that would be reflected on the application load, because token generation is kind of expensive operation, and we are generating that on each page refresh or when user open a bunch of new tabs. Let's say you want to open each link in the new tab to check details on that, and each tab will generate a new token. So that's something that I need to keep in mind. The experience with AI agents is like a roller coaster. Sometimes it gives you the exact result that you expect, and sometimes it's kind of sucks and you need to reprompt it multiple times till it does the job, and sometimes it doesn't do the job and I need to manually fix something. I don't know, maybe it's skill issue or maybe it's just a state of LLMs right now. For example, initially I had the token pair and it was managed in different places. I had it in snake case in one place, and then I provided updated documentation for my API, so it changed in one place to camel case, but it left snake case in another place, and every time when I log in, I expected access token to be set right away, but instead of that, it refreshed the token right after I log in, which doesn't make sense at all. So I reprompted that multiple times, and eventually I thought, screw it, I'm gonna fix it on my own. Another example was when I were creating a new URL and I clicked on the create link, and I expected the list updated based on the new API call, but instead of one call, I got 2 for some reason, and here I also didn't figure it right away, so I was reprompting Gemini over and over again, and it didn't provide me the solution. So I went and I saw that here when we create new URL and the response is okay, instead of just fetching, it has fetch link, and then it was something window location, and basically changed that to links. And this one line refreshes the page and probably defeats the entire concept of the single page applications. So yeah, that was not great. And also there was a couple of API call mismatches, even though I provided the most exhaustive API spec from Swagger, but that's okay. It was super minor and I fixed that quickly. Oh yeah, and the dark mode initially was super shitty. Eventually it got better, especially when I provided the exact color schema that I found on the Shotzi and theme generators. For now, I chose this one. At the beginning, there was even no concept of schema. Every color was hard-coded in different components. So even when the theme was applied to main dashboard areas, the create new short link model was having different colors. So I prompted to make sure that it follows the global theme. And I repeated the same process for every single component that was not on this page. So I think this is a lesson learned. If you're planning to change theme in the future and you're using AI agents to generate your front end, make sure it uses your main theme from the beginning, even if it's a default one. And as for the application colors, I'm considering to add a theme selector, maybe somewhere hidden in settings. By default, it would have some neutral colors. If you would like, there would be option to choose from the one that pre-built. And I think that would be a good idea to preserve typography and components shape. I don't know, would you prefer to have this option in the website that you use? I mean, the first thing that came to my mind is Slack has theme selector and some other messengers has also color themes, but yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea. Right now I can think of only messengers, but on the dashboard, yeah, I'm not sure. I guess the idea of making web service personalized for you, even if there is a few opinionated themes, that would be kind of cool, but yeah, I need to think about it. Also, I don't know if you noticed, but I have this weird flow where I use 3 IDEs at the same time. So I use IntelliJ IDEA for my backend, I use WebStorm for the frontend development, and I use Anti-Gravity as my AI agent. I'm not a big fan of the VS Code like IDEs, and to be honest, I don't even know how to navigate through it, but I think that's fine because I can do my job super efficiently in IntelliJ IDEA, and all the shortcuts and navigations are just the same in WebStorm. And probably I could use only IntelliJ IDEA for both backend and frontend, but I just wanted to have some kind of separation between those two. By the way, what about you? Do you use 1, 2, 3, or even more IDs? Alright, that's all what I have for now, and see you guys next week.